Committee meeting. Committee members present, President Kuchmarek, Councilor Joseph, Councilor Bezal, Councilors also present, Clark, Boschman, Mayor Di Natale is here, as well as Acting Auditor Jackie Cronin. We'll start with 8517, a loan order for the sum of $2,500,000 be appropriated to pay costs of constructing approximately 12,300 feet of water main on various city streets, including but not limited to replacing existing cast iron water mains with replacement of service lines and payment of any and all other costs incidental and related thereto, and that to meet this appropriation, the city treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, is authorized to borrow said amount under and pursuant to Chapter 44, Section 8(5) of the general laws, and I won't read the rest, but it's a loan order for $2.5 million to replace 12,300 feet of water main on various city streets. Speaking on this matter is Deputy Commissioner of Water, Mr. DeLine.
Good evening, Councilors, Mayor, Jackie. Before this evening, just to request permission to borrow $2.5 million for the water main project that we have for this year. The list of streets that I gave you, also with a locust map, are the same streets that I had submitted last year during the rate increase for this year. Nothing's changed with it. There's a few more feet on each of the streets as we get numbers to make all the connections. So we're about 12,000 feet, and we had planned on doing a couple miles, so it's a little bit more than that. And these areas are basically on our top 10 list of areas that with water quality issues. A good majority of them have what we call bleeders running on them. Basically, to keep the water quality reasonable, we waste water by running a bleeder at the end of each of the lines, basically to keep water changed over in the mains. So this water main project, not only will it provide better water quality to the constituents on these streets, improve fire protection, it will also eliminate that waste of water too, which costs us money to pump and treat. So. This will be paid for through the water increases that were approved last year, and we anticipate borrowing a little bit later on in fiscal year 18 that the payments will start in fiscal year 19. So it also allows us to save some additional money, as you know, with the rate increases to pay for other projects that we're working on during the course of the next couple of years.
So on this list where it says street name, starting the first one, Beacon Street, and then approximate limits of work, Summer Street to Atlantic.
Yes.
I know Beacon is off of those two. Can you explain very quickly what that means so I can visualize it? Is it Beacon Street that's having the replacement?
Yes.
And
it'll be from Summer Street to the intersection with Atlantic.
Okay. That's the section of Beacon Street?
Yes.
Okay.
And that work will involve replacing the main and also replacing any old water services out to the property lines. We'll advise the property owners if they do have an older service, they should consider replacing it at that time. But essentially everything on the street will be new.
Is there going to be any advance notification to the
Yes.
residents in those neighborhoods?
Yes.
Okay. How much advance notice?
We anticipate starting after July 1st, so we'll give them at least a month's notice.
Okay. Councilor Joseph.
It's just, how many feet, linear feet, have been replaced in the last 10 years?
In the last 10 years, I don't have that exact figure, but the CSS project, they did a number of water mains on those streets. It probably was about 2 miles on those streets, but basically in the last 10 years, that would be about it. So,
I just know from the time I got on the council till now, they told me that all the excess money was being used to so many feet per year. That's why they needed that money in the account, and it's just, I don't think there was ever any replaced, and I just feel like such an idiot not asking on a yearly basis the status of those projects, because they told me every year that there was so many feet because we had excess funds and they couldn't touch it because they were using it to replace.
yeah, the best of my knowledge, that was what was done in the last 10 years, unless there was something at the 8 or 9 year mark that I can't, recollect at this time. But that project, part of the CSS project, the water mains that were older on those streets, and we knew that they're going to be repaved after that sewer separation project, that they did do the water mains on those.
So is this being mandated to do, or is this being done voluntarily?
Voluntarily.
Okay, and how are we going to get an update, either through Lenny's update or whatever, to say that you're actually doing, this work has been done?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I have the plans here, and so, I mean,
Yeah.
any counselor would like to talk to me, but we're definitely going to be starting after July 1st. So we're in the midst of going out to bid right now for the work so that we can award the bid prior to July 1st so that we can start right after the beginning of the fiscal year. And the money will be borrowed in fiscal year 18, so.
Thank you.
But I'm committed. I mean, we're going to be doing 2 miles of pipe for the next couple of years, as long as I can see. We have some other projects that we're working on too, out at the reservoir, some intakes, but we really need to put as much money as we can into these. And I mean, if there's a change in that, I'll let you know, but I anticipate the next 3 years we'll be doing 2 miles a year and reevaluate where we're at that point.
Are you relining pipes as well, or are you just replacing pipes?
In this particular project, we're going to replace the pipes because they are undersized. I would like to reline because that's more economical, not as economical as you would think. But if the pipes are undersized, we need to upgrade them and relining, cleaning and relining just isn't feasible for that type of.
Because I remember we went up to West Fitchburg because they were showing us a new process of cleaning and relining that they had come out with.
No, there's some great new technology because they used to clean the mains and cement line them, but now they also have what they call a structural, basically plastic liner type of plastic that they put in now. It's actually better than the cement lining because it won't break down and it's actually structural. The cement lining doesn't add any structural integrity to the main, whereas the plastic lining does. It's something that started in the wastewater field, but now it's they made it so that it's safe for potable water. So it's something we should examine. And in fact, like something like at a bridge crossing or something like that, where we want to reinforce the main, that's a perfect application.
Great. Thank you.
Council Beazle.
Thank you. The only question I have is, on the scope of work, are you going to just dig up and just patch the street, or is it?
Well, we're working with the DPW to try to pave all these streets. Unitel is going in before us to do a bunch of gas work. We're also finishing up the River Street project. We did some water work there that was included in that MassWorks project, so we're finishing that up. But Unitel is going in before us, and we're looking at Unitel contributing and water contributing. We'll do a temporary patch. Unitel will do a temporary patch and hopefully be able to resurface those roads, reclaim and resurface those roads. So, and anything else that needs to be done in there. That's really, likely to fail that will get done too. So.
Well, thank you for coordinating that, because I think there's nothing more frustrating for residents to have the road dug up and then 2 years later it's being dug up again. So thank you for that.
The fortunate aspect is these streets, a lot of these are ones that are in poor condition already, so I'm happy about that.
Right.
I don't want to. I hate to dig up a new street that's just been paved in the last 5 years. I don't want to do that. And at the same time, we're gonna unfortunately, we're one of the biggest offenders. Water is, in addition to perhaps Unitel with gas leaks, but for tearing up the streets. I mean, we have a water main break, we have a leak, and we damage the streets. And like I said, whereas we try to restore it the best of our ability, but we are one of the largest offenders. And if we can get these done before they pave it, there's going to be less likelihood for us to have to go back into that street. It's virtually foolproof because of the testing we do on the mains. So.
Okay. Thank you.
And that's what the goal is. I mean, we've been talking, Lenny, Gary Bevlacco, we've been working together just trying to figure out how we can bring, all the Unitel, water, wastewater together so that we can make sure to try to get as much done to the streets. It isn't always going to work out, but we should do it to the best of our ability.
Can you briefly just, because we had this discussion last summer when the rate increase discussion came about, these are the worst of the worst, right?
Yes.
And by worst of the worst, can you briefly state what that means? How old are these pipes?
I would say most of them are 70 to 120 years old. And the worst of the worst means that if we turn off those bleeders, by the next morning, the water's orange or yellow. That's how bad it is.
Yep.
That's pretty serious, And we're able to keep it clean by running the water through there. But that's not the way we should be approaching it. We need to upgrade these mains.
Now, there has been a line item in the water budget for years that I can recall called water main replacement for like $350,000.
Yeah.
Is that supplanting this, supplementing this? Have we never? I think the question asked earlier, because did we ever do any replacements with that 350? We kept budgeting for capital needs?
I'm not sure what was budgeted prior to my coming back to the city, but I mean, the last couple of years have only been like 150, so we just used that. This year it went up to 350 with a rate increase, and we're going to
Okay.
be using that on the River Street project, which is something that, you know, I wasn't really expecting on the radar. But we're happy to do that and try to do it. But I'm not sure what happened, you know, in those years prior. I don't have those figures, so
Okay. It'd be interesting to know because
I could get those to you and just see what happened.
because I was under the impression this 2.5 million is above and beyond what we've been budgeting in the water department budget for water main replacements. I know 150, 250, 350 isn't going to get you much, but
Yeah.
I figured there was some excess there on top of this to.
With the rate increase, I mean, this current year, we have 350,000, it's going up to 500,000 next year. I mean, we're gonna be doing work in there and paying for part of this and hopefully not borrow as much so we can get us closer, to when the plants are paid off, so then we can, in 2022, so that we can take all that money from the loans and put it into water main work. So, and this is kind of a loan to bridge that gap, which I did talk about last year, is that we're gonna need to borrow some money, because we don't have enough, or we increase the rates even more than they had to be in order to try to budget all in 1 year, so.
Council Boschman.
Question to you is this. You're going to do all these streets, almost 1,300 square feet of pipe work this year?
12,000, they're gonna do their
300.
best to get it done.
This year.
Yeah.
Now, on the $2.5 million you're going to borrow from the city, the mayor, how long is it going to take you to pay it back? Pay us back?
20-year loan,
20 years?
yeah,
And then you're going to do more work after that?
yes.
I thought you'd get it done in 2 years to pay us back. I just thought that way.
Yeah, it's about, for each million you borrow, it's about 60 grand a year in payments, so.
So my question to you is this. I understand what Angelo said about the pavement and digging up the roads.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, Lenny came out with a list, and they're saying what streets are going to be paved. Now, I'm looking on your list, and I notice you got one area in my ward, Persian Street, Leroy Street. But that's not on the list. So you're going to come back and you're going to resurface that whole street after?
They'll probably let it settle over the winter months and put it on the list for next year. You know, when you do that much excavation, it's best if it settles for a winter or a couple seasons. So we're gonna do a temporary patch, and then they'll come in and reclaim that.
Now, you're not going to leave the patch like you gave me on Daniel Street on Oak Hill Road, are you? The ski jumps?
We're gonna get that fixed.
I mean, really?
Yeah. No, that's the type of thing that we want to avoid, because when we do have a water main break, it just blows the soils out everywhere. It loosens them all up, and you know, that particular water main break, the water was leaking about 120 feet. The actual break was 120 feet from where the soil was coming out of the pavement and the ground. So, I mean, what happens is that we have to let that settle, because we don't know where that water flowed, especially when the ground's flowing, and what soils were basically pushed out of the ground. So, you know, and like I said, we are one of the biggest offenders, but I wish there was a way around that, and without digging out the whole road and spending, you know, tens of thousands of dollars, at that time, we wouldn't be able to do it. So we let it settle, and, you know, once it has settled, which it will have this spring, we'll go in and repave that, so.
So you're going to repave Oak Hill Road,
Yep,
and you're going to refix in front of Seaboard,
yep, yep,
and that's a guarantee.
yep. As soon as we can get our contractor out there to do it, so. They don't let.
We're not going to do it. We're going to get it somebody.
Yeah, they don't like doing those type of jobs, because it's not a big money to them. They want what they want to go in and do is reclaim a whole street or cold plane it. They don't want to go. It's a lot of mobilization, demobilization to do a small patch. You know, the one that was up on Ringe Road, just as an example, that cost when we had a contract to do it, it was like about 15 grand. So I'm not sure if anybody's familiar with that one. So.
And then my final question is this: are we going after grants because you hear so much? A couple of years ago, you heard about Detroit.
Yeah.
The water out there was bad. Are we going to go after grants? Because I thought the government was going to start programs so people, especially in the Northeast, where our water mains are so low and our pipes are so low.
Yeah, there's lower interest loans for water main work. They used to have zero interest loans, but that doesn't exist anymore. And they don't have any grants for water main work at this time. So
No?
no, not a penny, unfortunately. So somebody like Detroit might get it because of their unique situation. but unfortunately, Fitchburg, you know.
Now, Councilor Di Natale, if you recall right, when I first came on the council, he came in front of us, and a couple from Shea Street, Upper Shea Street area, came in front of us with the water. And to be quite frankly, I don't want to gross anybody out. We look like urine, to be honest with you. I thought, I said, oh my God, we're drinking that? But I'm glad you're going to be fixing up there, right?
Yeah, and the way we've been able to correct that situation is through the installation of a bleeder up there.
Yeah, I sort of believe you.
Yeah, that's the only way that we've tried everything.
Yeah.
We tried that new technology called ice pigging. It didn't work. I mean, and basically what happens when you start to have that yellow water in a water main until you've replaced it or cleaned and lined it, that's what's going to happen unless you use a bleeder. So that's why we need to keep doing, we need to get working on this stuff because, we get these ones done and 5 or 7 years from now, there's going to be some more that need to be done. So we need to get ahead of it.
Is the DPW helping you on this project, or are you going to farm everything out?
No, it'll all be contracted. I mean, this is, this requires major equipment, excavators and quite a few people, so.
All right, okay. All right, thank you, Marcus. Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
Motion to approve 8517.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve 8517. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Tran has joined the meeting. 8617, in order that there be and hereby is appropriated the sum of $47,322, same be charged against available funds and credited to the following fiscal year 2017 departmental personal services accounts. Mayor, $1,410, auditor, $4,088, purchasing, $2,194, assessor, $1,828, treasurer, $3028, information tech, $6891. It goes on, Human Resources, City Clerk, Community Development, Building, Police, DPW, Health, Council on Aging, Veterans, Library, other benefits. Who is speaking on this?
Good evening, councilors. For the record, my name is A.J. Tarigny, Chief of Staff to Mayor Di Natale, and with me this evening is City Solicitor Vinnie Pusateri. This petition, or order, also coincides with 8717 for the conversation that we're about to have. This is a result of negotiations with the famous union group, as well as the department head employees schedule that follows the famous union. We finished negotiating with them about 2 or 3 weeks ago, if my memory serves me well. They're extremely professional group, and we worked in a collaborative effort to find something that would work with both groups. To give you the quick cliff notes of this union contract, we're looking. It begins off with a bereavement, and I believe I provided a copy to you all. There's a bereavement leave, just with a clarification to amendment to that for adding domestic partner. The sick leave buyback we made consistent with other union groups within the city. Group insurance, the city increases life insurance policy for, coverage from $10,000 to $15,000. We made a clarification to the holiday schedule by implementing a graph, something that's much more readily and easily followed. Correct, for first year employee. Vacations, we added that matrix as well, which is followed on the fourth page. The wage and salary for the COLAs was a 1%, 2%, and 2% for FY17, 18, and 19. We did remove some clothing allowance positions within the contract. We added professional training. The city made an obligation to provide professional training to the famous group, which we've already done so. We had a half-day event, which I believe you all were invited to, as well as it was a regional event with Leominster joining us. And I was informed this evening that we do have another one scheduled in the coming month. And we also made certifying membership in the union and also removing a position. If you have any questions, we'd be more than happy to answer them for you.
Councilor Boschman?
One question. On this contract that you just gave us tonight, is it all possible the next time this happens that we get it ahead of time in case we want to read it? And if we have any questions, no, I just got this now, and probably all my fellow councilors get it now. And how can you really ask questions? We have to just say, yeah, no, we accept it. In other words, I would like to know how many department heads are on this budget. You know what I'm saying to you?
Absolutely.
Or do the department heads get paid separately versus the people underneath them?
Yeah, we can absolutely do that, Council. And I believe as part of the petition, there was a submission in that petition that had the department heads listed out for you.
All right.
Just want to make it very clear, too, that the list of, in the order 8617, the list of, that is here is for necessarily departments, not department heads. So we're not saying that the mayor is going to receive a retroactive payment of $1,410. What we're saying is that the mayor's office, staff,
That's correct.
is receiving, tracks closely the matrix that was in the, that relates to the famous group. So I just wanted to make sure everyone understood that the mayor wasn't looking for or receiving any additional compensation as a
So
result.
when you say that, would be a person like John or
Joan and AJ, sir.
John
Yep.
and AJ?
Absolutely.
What
Well,
about
the
the
both of them.
councils?
The council, you guys.
It's before your body.
You know, if you guys form a union and we start negotiating,
Council, I need to remind you that we have the power to to
I understand. I would just
raise the mayor's and our salaries if we so choose, no one else. Are you all done?
Yeah, I'm all done. Thank you. Sorry.
Councilor Joseph?
Just for curiosity, can someone just supply us the positions that are covered under this? In a
Oh,
separate?
yes, by the, for the department head,
Right.
absolutely.
I'm just curious who's in famous,
Yep.
and I just wanted to know.
yes.
Oh, okay, yes, we can do that.
And I'm just out of curiosity, I know that AJ's, not to pick you out of all of this, but I know that your name is on, signing on this, but you also benefit from it. Is there no conflict of interest in him?
There is a conflict of interest. We identified it with the mayor's office when we started the negotiation. And I'll tell you, AJ was one of probably a more aggressive negotiators during the course of the group, and he does the lion's share of the administrative work that goes into the representation of the management side. So, yes, to answer your question, yes, it was a known conflict of interest that we entered into, and it is a difficult position for him to be in as a result of that, but that is an issue. The other alternative is really just to sub the whole thing out, and what the mayor's office has been trying to do is limit the constant, I think we've been budgeting $50,000 a year on labor, and we've been trying to limit that.
It's just curious to me, is this a straight, right, across the board amount based on that 1-2%? Because it's just, I don't understand how the auditor's office has one employee with that amount being budgeted, and the infotech, I don't know how many that's why I wanted to know how many people were affected. I mean, is these numbers based on where they were in the grades, or how do these numbers, where these numbers are derived?
So the numbers were derived by having the auditor's office took that 1%,
Yeah,
and then added the matrix that was submitted with the petition. That 1% put an effect onto that fiscal year 17 matrix, which raised the steps, if you will, by 1%. And then based off that increase, that's how the auditor was able to calculate these increases that are before you. Is that correct?
so some of these include step and raise. Is that why the numbers look a little bit different?
They're, like in the case of the auditor, the former city auditor is included in that amount as a retiree in this fiscal year.
The
So-
former auditor was a member of the famous union?
No, these numbers before you are department heads and famous.
Department
The
heads
whole
and,
yeah, for all members of the department. It's consistent with the way it's been presented in the past.
so a department heads somehow raises tied into what the,
Same matrix.
not
and,
before.
Yeah, using the grades and steps people are on, using the same matrix.
Can I?
So if you don't mind, Counselor, so if Famous gets a 1% raise, the department heads get the same raise
Is that
Yes.
correct? Yeah,
that are not in the union? Because they use the same matrix?
that's correct.
So if the union negotiates an amendment to the matrix, that affects the department heads too?
That's correct. From our, yes.
That's been past practice.
Okay. Continue, Counsel.
No, I just thought that if you were a department head, you negotiated with the mayor, not tied to a union, but, okay.
Di-
Now those numbers make more sense to me, but before they didn't make any sense to me. They looked disproportionate.
It would behoove the city, the administration to provide, when they give us this contract, a list of names, just understand who's getting what, or the positions. I think you said they were in our packet?
Correct, the petition, within the petition, those names were provided.
Right. Because I understand Councilor Boschman's point about getting this ahead of time, so we could read it. My question to follow on Councilor Joseph, if this $47,000, is this just the raises? You listed a bunch of other things that we made amendments to in this contract. I have no doubt we'll have a cost associated with it, but we don't know what that cost is. What's this $47,000? Is it just the raises?
It's the raises, it's the increase in the sick time buyout that was bargained,
And then the enterprise funds as well.
yes, in the next order.
So the sick time buyback, I always see a number of 10,000 in the budget for certain people.
Correct.
Are we saying that in this contract, we bumped it up to that?
Yes,
What was it previously?
10,000,
It's going to 12,000.
going to 12.
So we're increasing the buyback.
The buyback has been increased. The buyback, I don't think has been increased in how long?
Shouldn't have been increased at all. That's why.
How long has it been? More than 20 years.
You breathe, you get an extra $2.
You've got a number of other groups already that have that now. You have your middle management people being paid less fairly than,
What did we get in return for the city? What did we get?
well, if you review the entire contract, I think what you're seeing is, well, first of all, what I would suggest to you, sir, is the cost of living increase of 1% this year is going to keep keeps the cost lower as opposed to having a 2% upfront and then a 1% in the last year. And in fact, this particular group agreed to receive a 122 as opposed to standing and demanding a 222%. You've got the clothing allowances here. We had some clarity, so on managerial issues regarding hiring of new people, we have an opportunity to have some clarity on what the vacation time for new people will be. We're getting our middle management group to be professionally trained. It's in the agreement. And we're recertifying the class of membership in the union and removing a position from the union.
I think for next week's meeting or in the future, this needs to be outlined. What we lose, what we gain as a city, because
And then the other thing that you have to consider is you really have to approach this from a managerial perspective. This isn't like you are in civil litigation and you have two parties that are sick of each other and are done with each other and they're fighting over the dollars on the table.
Okay.
You're talking about an ongoing, these are people that are going to have to continue to work together with not only the mayor's office and management. This is not a divorce case. This is a restructuring of an ongoing relationship. Now, when we go out to hire people, we want to fill people in positions. The current level of hiring for brand-new employees is so unattractive, you can't get good candidates.
I understand that.
You
I
have
guess
to be able to pay a rate to get people.
I guess I come from a world where buybacks are a relic. I don't get a buyback. Does anybody here get a buyback? Do the
I don't.
40,000 residents in the city who are not in unions, do they get buybacks? Because you know what they're going to hear tonight? We just upped a perk by 2,000 that they don't even get a pittance in their own jobs. This is what I'm going to hear.
It's a $2,000 perk when they retire.
Right.
They have to leave the job from retirement. And when they retire, they can buy back some of their, and it's an encouragement and an incentive for the employees that are working for the city to not use their sick time. That's the other side of the coin.
Yes, I hate to keep comparing my own personal situation, but I don't get any such incentive for not taking my sick time because I don't have any rights.
Well, you're also not, yes, exactly. It's a different world.
I don't think we should have increased the buyback, is what I'm saying. And
Well, when
I've
you
said this
compare
before.
If you compare this group to the other groups that have already been approved, that have the $12,000 buyback in their contract.
I didn't vote
what
for
do you
those
say to
either.
this group?
I didn't vote for. Well, I'm speaking for myself, John. I didn't vote for any of those contracts. You know, I know that the union workers are going to hear me talking, and they're going to go spread propaganda that I hate the unions and I don't think the workers deserve a raise. I hear it all the time. No, I'm sick and tired of contracts where I see we lose money and they gain. I want to see where there's some parity in these negotiations because we don't have money coming out of our eyeballs every year. We have a $23 million.
These negotiations is what is the Department of Labor Relations going to do if the matter gets referred
Fine.
to Boston? That's the measuring stick in the negotiations.
Okay, I don't have to like the fact that we are giving more of a buyback beyond the $10,000. I thought $10,000 was exorbitant and generous because the taxpayers are paying that $10,000. Okay, and gentlemen, understand they're gonna cherry pick a couple of things you said and focus on that. That's why I'm trying to help out by saying what are we gaining out of this monetarily? Mm-hmm. It doesn't sound like much. That's it.
Okay.
I wasn't aware of the buyback provision. That really bothers me.
I can't tell you how many other groups have it, but I will tell you that there is a certain number of other groups, they have it.
Well, shame on the previous mayor and shame on the previous councils for ratifying those contracts. I don't know what to say. I never voted for them. Councilor Kuchmarek.
Along the line of the sick time buyback, I know the state is starting to review that, I believe, as well, and looking to remove that or significantly reduce moving forward. So I just wonder if Mass Municipal has given any guidance as the state looks to eliminate or reduce that perk for state employees. Are we then going to be an outlier, you know, from where the state is? We're increasing while the state is looking to decrease or remove. It truly is a rarity these days to see sick time buyback, particularly an increase. So I understand your point, Mr. Solicitor, that you know it's all part of a negotiation. I understand that you know we have great city employees. I want them to walk away from this feeling good, and I want the city to feel like this is a mutual bargaining back and forth. It's something of. You know, I look at a lot of these and say, well, that makes sense. You know, we want to recruit top talent and actually give them some vacation time so we don't burn them out before they get past their first year. So I don't disagree with a lot of what's in here. That's to Councilor Di Natale's point that's a tougher one to swallow of looking at an increase. I guess I'm curious. So we obviously know what the total is for FY17 in terms of the overall salary implications. What does this look like throughout the length of the contract?
You have those numbers?
Yes, Jackie. I believe for FY18 we can see an increase. This is for the famous for the famous group of $55,000 for FY18. And $56,000 for FY19.
And so you singled out famous here.
Correct.
Madam Auditor, you had mentioned, you said before, it's been past practice that department heads get the same percentage increases. Is that past practice, or is that in the contracts of our department heads?
It's past practice.
And again, you know, same thing with, you know, our department heads. And I'm not saying that it's that they don't deserve it, but I just question. So is that those figures are included in here?
That's a combined amount.
Should those be separate contracts, though? If we're increasing their salary, should that?
Well, they're under the ordinance. They're under the petition.
Is it a
that
code?
was submitted.
This is a code provision that we're talking about. We're calling it past practice, but you have a city code that does say that this is.
Well, that's why I was asking, is this,
Yes,
you know,
sir.
okay.
No, yes,
All right,
sir.
so it's not past
And I wanted
practice, it's,
to-
we don't have a
and
choice.
I wanted to make sure that I had the, some clarities, because I don't want to add confusion here. So if you give me a second, I would be happy to try to identify the code citation.
I trust, if you're saying it's by code, I trust certainly that it's in the code. I just, it's not quite past practice. If it's, you know, if it's legislated that way, then, you know, we're certainly locked in.
I think it's 44.
Have we told the cost or the potential implications for the additional buyback time as well? I mean, what are we looking
That's a
at?
good question, sir. And what I'm saying is, if we have folks that retiring this year,
Yep.
it's going to cost us an additional $2,000.
Okay.
That's what this negotiated. So when you negotiate this type of a perk, as offensive as it might be to certain counselors, for very short money, we're working towards a compromise. This is certainly not, this is not where the mayor's office started off. This is the result of negotiations that probably span the course of over 8 months. Over a year. Over a year. Okay? And our measuring stick is what might happen if the matter goes to the Department of Labor Relations. And as a result of using that,
Mr. Solicitor, I wasn't asking any of that. I was, simple questions about, you know, what was included, what wasn't. So I understand where you're coming from. I don't need to be reminded of the implications. I guess I'll say thank you.
Council Beazle.
Thank you. So, I spent most of my life in the public sector, and, you know, you're talking a 1% raise. I don't ever remember my company ever giving a raise as low as 1%. You have 16 departments that this involves, and you're looking at $47,000, so it's $900 a week to give a raise to 16 departments. Okay? I fully understand that we're all trying to save money, but the reality really comes down to is, in our own lives, we get raises. And our associates in the city are working, and they should get a raise too. And as far as the buyback goes on the sick time, a lot of companies, like my company used to, if you didn't use your sick days, at the end of the year, you get a check for those sick days. I don't believe that's the way the city operates. Am I right in assuming that? I don't know if... So basically,
Retirement.
if you're due 10 sick days at the end of the year, you don't get a check for 10 sick days. If you don't use those, they accumulate.
Correct.
And at the end of a person's career, they look and they say, God, I've got 300 sick days. Now, no one's asking that they get paid out 300 sick days. They're asking for a lump sum. Am I correct?
Right, the number of days, I think at 25% of their rate.
But there is a maximum amount.
That
10,000
maxes.
or
Right, so if let's say, for example, I've never called in sick and I have 400 sick days, I'm getting the same as a person who has 200 sick days. There's a cap on it, and that's the way that the cities operate. So what I'm saying is,
everyone doesn't get that. It
right,
would only be the people who have exceeded the cap.
and what I'm saying is, I fully understand that everybody, you know, wants to control expenses, but at the same rate, there are associates and they work for us, and, you know, if at some point they're going to get a raise, we all get raises at work. It's just the way that it is. And 1% to me is not really a lot of money in my eyes. So, thank you.
Council Boschman.
It bothered me. I understand what Angela said, but I came from working in the factory. And there were some times when, and I worked for one of the richest companies in the world, and there were times when we did not get a pay raise because they wanted to save a buck. But what I have a problem with, when I look at this and I see not the laborer. When I call the laborer, I'm talking about the guy that's in the ditches, digging the holes, cutting the grass, fixing the pavement. doing carpentry work, whatever, and he gets very little. And then I look at like a community development, I see almost $10,000, and I say to myself, God, I said, the actual laborer gets very little, and the guy in the community development gets a hell of a lot more money, and that bothers me. That bothers me. That literally bothers me, because numerous times, John DeLine, Lenny comes up and they sit here. We train them, we teach them everything, and they leave because they go to a better and more, where they get more money. And I really think we should start thinking about paying the actual worker that's fixing our roads, fixing the sidewalks, fixing the water mains, cutting the grass, whatever you want to call it, and look at that. Now, I look at some of these raises and I say to myself, and the department heads, and they make, you know, I'll tell you something. I told my wife and I tell my friend when they call them up, I went in the wrong profession when I started. I should have went for government, because this is where it at. Government pays, and it pays really, really good. You get a lot of benefits, and I can't believe it. And I'm sorry if I offend somebody, but I look at it, and I say, God, we didn't get that, and I work for the richest company in the world, and we didn't get what I see here. And I'm not jealous, don't get me wrong. God bless them if they can get it, and I'm the fool to vote for it. And that's why I ask you, how can I vote honestly when I get this Tuesday night? I don't even know if I can vote on it, because I got to understand it and find out if I can change this if I want to change it. And can I? No, I can't. Right, Calvin? All right, thank you. So he already answered the question. But I just ask, you know. I just get amazed, that's all. And I'm not jealous, don't get me wrong. But I would like to see, you know, the DPW and the guys that are in the trenches, I can understand them. When you know, I mean, but some of these other ones, I'm sorry, when you're up there in management, you're elected to go up there in management. When you're in the trenches, you don't get that opportunity. You're digging a hole. Mm-hmm. That's it. That's all I got to say.
So I've got Councilor Joseph, Councilor Train, Councilor Beazall. I want it made clear, I always have to do this, I am not saying they don't deserve it. I'm not even questioning the 122. Because as Councilor Beazall said, I've never experienced a raise like that before. What I'm questioning are these, I'll call them ridiculous perks that a majority of people I represent don't get, but they're paying for them. Okay? And they'll focus on that. They're not going to focus on the 122. Okay? I get the negotiation. I get the
retirement with the cap this year is going to cost us a lot less than
Okay.
the 122, or if it was a 222. It would cost a lot more money if this was a 222.
It's the optics. It was like the police years ago getting a stipend for not crashing a car.
It's the money.
I mean,
It's the 1% in that first year. For a couple of grand for people who might retire.
a perk that no one else even gets $1,000 for.
And, yeah.
So I'm not jealous. I just
Apparently, in Councilor Beazall's experience, you can buy back your sick. If you don't use it, you get it back.
I've worked for 3 Fortune 500 companies. They've never done any such thing. So you use it or you lose it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the choice I make for working there. I get that. But again, I am not knocking the people who are deserving of the raises. All right? I'm knocking all of these other things in the contract that usually get overlooked because all we focus on is the dollar value of the raises.
You're passing on a group this evening.
Yes.
That's taken zeros in the past and have watched other folks retire and get the 12 and not the 10.
Gentlemen, I will repeat for the residents and for the audience, I have never voted for any of these contracts. So I am being consistent in fairness to those other unions where I said no to. Okay? And that was one of the biggest reasons why. So that's all. I get the whole discussion. I get that if we don't reach an agreement, the geniuses in the Labor Relations Board are going to triple what we owe them because they don't care.
Hopefully not, but...
Well, I'm just saying. That's how it always works. Oh, you want to go to arbitration? You're going to pay 3 or 4 times more. I mean, it's almost as if we have to sit here and go, how much are we going to take this time? Because if we don't, we're at an impasse, and then the State Labor Relations Board is going to quadruple our expense. I get it. I guess from the world I come from, very hard for me to process. So, and I've been consistent about this since 2008. So this shouldn't surprise anybody. I'm probably public enemy number one with the employee unions, and I don't really care, to be quite frank with you. Councilor Joseph.
I guess I just want to apologize if I had frustration earlier. Again, that was one thing that just pushes my button, because I look at the face of the people that are represented by this union, and I enjoy working with every one of them, and they do a very professional job for the city. So I apologize if I showed any frustration earlier. The frustration disappears with the work that you do, and you're deserving of what you get. This is just things like longevity and sick leave buyback that just in the back of my head make me go crazy. So I apologize.
Councilor Tran.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So from what we've heard, that department heads and senior management who are not part of the unions are benefiting from the agreement of the union agreements. Now, we have department heads who sign on and have their own contracts.
Yes.
Are they adhering to those contracts and also benefiting from the agreement? Is that double dipping?
No, it's, and interestingly enough, our clerk, who works endless hours, must be watching this because she just texted me. And she said it's in chapter 44. It's not published in the code book yet, so I won't find it. So she saved me another fruitless endeavor of research. So the code book is incorporated in, especially in the contracts that we've been drafting, the city code and the requirements of the city code is incorporated into that contract. So it's not a double dip, it's actually.
So either or,
No, it's one and the same.
one and the same.
It's the code.
So what happens if a department head's contract exceeds the numbers in the union agreement?
The contract does not contemplate raises in that manner.
Okay.
So we wouldn't have a contract with the department head that says, you're going to make for FY17, you're going to make $100,000 in FY18, you're going to make 105, and then worry about whether or not these percentages and other steps are going to kick in. The contract will be, you're being hired on at this step and grade, and then as the step and grades continue to unfold, they'll get those step and grades, and then there's a negotiated COLA, cost of living increase, that goes into that as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Councilor Beazle.
Thank you. I just, for clarification, so I know people are looking at these numbers and wondering why some departments are more. These departments are based off of 1% of the operating budget in that department.
The number of people in that.
Right.
department.
So for example, if you have 10 people in the department making $90,000, you take 10 times 90,000, 1% is going to be more than another department that might have 10 people making 50. So we can't compare departments and say this department is getting more than that department. Am I right in saying they're all getting the same percentage?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
The people within that union in that department.
Correct, correct.
And to answer Councilor Boschman's question about the labor union, they are up for negotiation, and the Human Resource Department, along with the city solicitor, have been negotiating their contract as well. So we do understand those type of implications that they have, and that we are sitting at the table with them talking about them.
President Kuchmarek.
I'll just clarify earlier in the spirit of Councilor Joseph's earlier remarks that please don't mistake my frustration for as a reflection on my thoughts or feelings towards the work that our city employees do. I think in particular, I was just particularly curious about the impact in year 2 and 3, but you look at this in year 3, compounded with each of those raises, you're really looking at $205,000. And to Councilor Beazle's remarks, the is it 205 compounded? So after the 1 and then the 2 and then the 3, you're looking
You're at-
in that
you're-
ballpark. Is that
I do not compound them. I know the individual for FY 17, 18, and 19.
I'm sure Council Di Natale will correct my math shortly, but roughly 205,000 is what it looks like. I mean, Councilor Beazall is right. You know, in the private industry, you typically see much sharper increases through raises. So, I look at this and say, our city employees are certainly working hard enough, and they certainly deserve the raises, and they have taken zeros in the past. And I think we need to consider that when we look at the current contract in front of us. But I'm still frustrated by the sick buyback, but I at the end of the day, I can't look at this and say that my objections are so strong that I couldn't vote for this contract. Certainly, in particular, I'm pleased, Mr. Solicitor, you pointed out earlier the professional training clause in there, and I think that's a good step for the city, and I think that's a great move forward in terms of making sure that we undergo standard and regular training for our employees, particularly those managers. So I think it's a great step, hopefully for both the city and those respective departments. So with that, I'd make a motion that we accept 8617.
Motion made and seconded to accept 8617. Speaking on the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? One in opposition. Passes 3-1. 8717 in order, there being hereby is transferred from within the following personal services accounts the sum of $12,651. Same to be credited to the respective fiscal year 2017 personal services accounts. Water Enterprise Fund 6594, Wastewater Enterprise Fund 4960, Airport 1097.
Second.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve 8717. Same as before.
This would be the same conversation.
Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? One in opposition. Passes 3-1. 8817. Thank you. 8817, order there being hereby is appropriated the sum of $35,000 to be charged against available funds and credited to information technology equipment for the purpose of replacing the phone system at the fire department. IT Manager Bonilla and Chief Roy.
Hello, good evening. I guess I'll start. I'm sorry, I'm under the weather today, so I'm having a hard time hearing and speaking. But this is long coming. We've been trying to replace this phone system for 4 years. The fire department has been buying parts on eBay for the last couple of years, trying to keep this phone system running, and it's just at a critical mass at this point. I know you guys appreciate when we come in front of you as a capital cost. This is a phone system that matches the phone systems that we have at police and fire, so there's redundancy in the process, and it's a modern VoIP phone system. So much like the police and city hall phones, it'll start saving us money in the long run with long distance and with PBX lines as opposed to copper lines in every building.
Just out of curiosity, how old is the system?
We moved it from the old building council, I think, early maybe late 80s, early 90s. It came from Oliver Street.
So it's 20 years old?
It's got rotary dials.
Yeah, we've been in the new building 18 years.
It's 20 years old, and it doesn't
It's
tie
close to
into the
25.
existing grid with the other departments,
It
right?
doesn't do anything.
No, we
Okay.
have no room for expansion. It's having a lot of problems.
Just out of curiosity, do you have any idea what the payback is on this?
I don't know. I know that we've saved probably over the life of the phone bills, probably 10 or 15%. My phone bill has been going down every year. I've been asking for less money because of those savings, but we don't have the time to do that kind of research. I apologize.
No, that's fine. Yep. I'm sure it pays back within a decade.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Within 4 or 5 years, I
Yeah,
would
okay.
imagine.
That's pretty good. Councilor Kuchmarek?
You just asked that exact question. I'm all set. Thank you.
Councilor Boschman?
Got a question. My question is this. Chief, I've been on the council for 4 years, and I'm not looking for trouble. But I got a question to pose. And I have a pie, and I come from a large family like this city. And I was always told that, because I'm Paul Boschman, in my house they always thought I was the king. and they always thought that I got a bigger piece of the pie, and everybody else got smaller pieces. And I look at here, and every time you come in front of me, I vote yes, 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 yes. But my question to you is, I appropriated $85,000 last year to have your Summer Street driveway paved over and part of Oak Hill Road paved over. And now this year, when you knew that the phone service was in dire need of replacement, I just was wondering why you asked us to give you $85,000 where you didn't come up and say, geez, I'd rather have phone service instead of $85,000, because I was just, I go back to the pie, and it seems like every time I say yes to you, and I give the school committee a hard time, I give Calvin Brooks a hard time, I give this department a hard time, but it seems like you're getting always the biggest share of the pie.
Well, I don't agree with you, Councilor. I mean, I go before the Capital Improvements Commission. I was there last night. There's a lot of money given to a lot of departments. I think they do a very good job. I think the mayor does a very good job. The phone system in particular comes under the IT department, doesn't come under my department. And we've asked for it in their budget in a number of years. So how that gets budgeted and what happened over the years, I assume the same thing that happened to all of us over the last 15 years here, that all capital improvements get cut out every year. And it goes on and on and on. I think a number of councils have brought this up before. Capital improvements weren't made in the city. We try and take an approach to keep our buildings up, keep our equipment up, and keep everything the best it could. Now, if you look at that as we're getting a bigger piece of the pie, I don't agree with you, Councilor. Our budget's very small for a fire department our size. The fire department next door is $1.2 million more than us. So we're in here when we have needs, when I think they're important needs. I bring those before this body to make sure that our equipment, our people, and our buildings are run correctly.
Counselor, can we stick to the merits of the appropriation request and not go back in history on this?
Okay, Councilor.
Just because the chief has nothing to do with these appropriations. He makes recommendations. The IT department make recommendations. He's got to approve it, or the person before him's got to approve it, or the person before her's got to approve it. So if you've got an issue with the $85K last year, take it up with the mayor at that time that approved it, because these two gentlemen were talking about a phone system 5 years ago. $35,000. I could find $35,000 in the budget like that. But the mayor at the time said no. That's why they've taken 5 years. But they said yes to a pavement in front of the Summer Street Fire Station. I don't know why, but they're both capital needs, and they were necessary. Why this is coming after the fact, that's not he doesn't have any control. They don't have any control over that.
Well,
I just wanted to clarify that.
Don't get me wrong, Council. I'm not looking for an argument. I'm just asking. I've been on the council for 4 years, and nothing against you, Chief. But I just say to myself, I look, and every time,
Okay.
and I vote it. I vote for it. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Councilor Joseph.
Forgive me for my ignorance, but in business, when we capitalize something, usually you write it off over years for write-off purposes. But for the city, this wouldn't benefit us because it's not a profit-type situation. Is that correct? So that's why it's better for us.
It's infrastructure.
Different. Okay. So I mean, it's better to just pay it one-time fund out of available.
Council, I would like to say that with the microwave system we put in a few years ago on Rollstone Hill, we eliminated a lot of phone lines to our buildings and saved Trevor's accounts over $11,000 a year.
Councilor Joseph's right.
And we're currently working on bringing the police department on board the same way, and we're making those provisions to make that happen for them.
These aren't profit-generating capital appropriations, but they're cost-saving capital appropriations, which is why I asked originally about the payback.
Absolutely.
We're investing $35,000. We're probably going to recoup that money through savings within 5 or 6 years, which then it improves efficiency. So that's right. Yeah, Councilor Kuchmarek.
Yeah, I was just going to add quickly, in a year like this where you have available free cash, this is the perfect kind of these are exactly the type of orders we should be entertaining, of one-time, single-year expenditures where we can realize the cost savings over the subsequent years. So, Chief Trevor, I appreciate you coming in front of us for multiple years and asking for this, and I'm glad that we can finally afford to do this year and realize the savings. So, I applaud you both for looking at ways of saving funds in the long haul, but also looking at ways of creating efficiencies within our own city infrastructure.
And so you know, councilors, I'm sorry, there's some other costs associated that I took out of my budget, like PoE switches, so that the phones don't need power to the phones. They're running through the network. So I took as much cost as I could out of my budget this year before coming up with this number.
Motion to approve 8817.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve, 8817. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, councilors.
8917, in order, there being hereby is appropriated the sum of $280,000 to be charged against the available funds and credited to the school department capital improvements for the purposes of replacing the Memorial Middle School auditorium seating and the South Street Elementary School retaining wall.
Good evening,
Superintendent
councilors.
of Administrative and Finance, Jokola, and School Committee Member, Ms. Walsh. Good evening.
Good evening. Also, I should add that Ms. Walsh is a member of our Resource Subcommittee, which is equivalent to your Finance Committee, and also has been on our Building Needs Subcommittee as well. So we're constantly reviewing our capital needs every year, and just to expand on the conversation that was just happening, we come before you tonight for really two items of repair and replacement in nature. Number one is the seating here at the Memorial Middle School, the auditorium. The school is 50 years old. The green seats have 50 years of wear and tear, and in some case, you can't even see the upholstery that you see the metal springs. We have been looking at this. We really want to have a facility that shows that the community and the students and the staff that we care. So we have been speaking to a couple vendors, and we have a package in procurement subject to approval by this committee and eventually by the City Council to move forward with the procurement process to proceed. The goal, if approved, would be to install those seats this summer. The second item is a retaining wall at South Street Elementary School, the west building, the former convent. If you were to approach the building to walk into the school, it would be on the left-hand side by the driveway that goes into the main staff parking lot by the east building. Where the basement door is, that retaining wall is slowly turning towards the school building. There's a sidewalk there. There's railings there. We've been looking at that for a few years now. Last year, we retained Ty and Bond to do some engineering work. They have been the party responsible for putting together the paperwork for the bid, would ultimately manage the construction of that. Bids were opened for that last Monday. The final construction bid came in $9,000 over their original estimate. We had 5 bidders. So that's the second item that is before you.
President Kuchmarek.
Mr. Jokola, what is the distribution between the two expenditures?
Well, when we originally put this forward, it was 120 for South Street and 160 for Memorial seating.
Councilor Tran and I had spoken earlier in the year about the Memorial Middle School auditorium and the shape and condition that it was in, and for the number of both community events as well as school events that take place in this building. It's sorely needed. It's if we're going to use that as a forum for both public and our and our meeting space for the community, something we need to be investing in and making sure we're maintaining. So it's sorely needed. I'm pleased to see it come forward as quickly this year as it has. And certainly with a retaining wall, it doesn't sound like we have too many options on when we can do that. We don't want to jeopardize safety. So thank you.
Councilor Joseph.
And yeah, I agree, 10 years, at least 10 or 12 years, I've probably sat on those springs myself, one political event or another.
Yeah.
It's just, where does this put us with net school spending, and is there still a gap with net school spending?
Well, I'll answer that, and as I've always done, I always look to the city auditor, but these are capital items that aren't included in net school spending.
Okay.
And for this year, I think the city will be at or slightly above net school spending, but we won't know until all the final expenses are tallied.
Okay, so this is above and beyond.
Yes.
Capital didn't we appropriate money a couple of years ago for the gym floor at Rheingold? Wasn't that
was
counted?
just the sanding and refinishing, so.
Did that count?
Because it was a small dollar amount.
Okay.
When the dollars get
so
bigger.
There's a law that says Anything over a
Start
certain
getting
amount?
$100,000 or more. I
Okay.
think, yeah.
Okay.
Motion.
Counselor Tran?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The auditorium not only serves our students, but it also is a place for government meetings, public hearings, and public events. And I've been to many public events here, and when we have public events here, the whole entire place is filled. And people, they stood outside the hallway. And right now, the auditorium is just an embarrassment. I was there 11 months ago, and I participated in the Junior National Honor Society induction for my daughter. And I walked around the auditorium, and I saw the seatings, and I was horrified. So I took the pictures, and I sent it to superintendent and also assistant superintendent. And just to add on to what they've been doing, is that we also applied for the CDBG funding, and that didn't go through. So I'm very grateful to the mayor for putting this order forward to the city council. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, I would have to agree. This is a message to the students, the staff, and the parents that we this is a priority, because when you go in there and you see the condition, it must not be a good sign to the parents and the students that we allow that to continue. So hopefully after the summer's over, that seating section will be brand new, and it does send some kind of a message to the student body that
Absolutely.
we're doing our best.
Absolutely. We care.
We're
We
getting
respect
there,
them.
but we're not willingly neglecting these things. It just takes a little time, but I'm glad to see that we can knock one more project off the list of many. So,
And again, just to second Councilor Transcoms, I mean, this is, working closely with the city finance team and with the mayor and his involvement and support. It's been really critical in this case, so thank you.
Motion to approve 8917.
Second.
motion made and seconded to approve 8917. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you.
Last item, 9117. There being hereby is appropriated $25,000 to be charged against available funds and credited to Veterans Benefits General for the purpose of funding Chapter 115 benefits through the end of fiscal 2017, and the sum of $100 seem to be charged against available funds and credited to veterans events for the purpose of Memorial Day wreaths. Veterans Commissioner Marino could not attend this evening due to a personal commitment, but she wrote me a letter that I just want to read to the council. With regrets, I will not be able to attend April 25th, 2017 Finance Committee meeting. I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong message. Well, that was the message, but she sent an actual document that I think might be in the record. If not, I'll put it in the record. Dear Mayor DiNatale, I respectfully request supplemental appropriations for the following: $25,000 of veteran benefits general account for anticipated shortages for FY17, and $100 for veterans events. So far in FY17, we have paid an average of $47,881 per month in benefits, but with newly added beneficiaries, that number will increase. For the month of April, we are on pace to pay out approximately $51,000. Based on this number, for the remaining months in FY17, we will have a shortfall of around $22,000. I am asking for $25,000 in order to hopefully cover any unexpected increases in payments for the rest of the fiscal year. The $100 I'm requesting is to pay for a traditional memorial wreaths for Memorial Day, and a few extra dollars to pay for the printing of the programs. There's currently a shortage due to the funds used for our Veterans Day Vietnam commemoration program. Thank you in advance for your time and consideration to this matter, Michelle Marino.
Make a motion to approve 091-17.
Motion made and seconded to approve 91-17. Speaking on the motion, Council Joseph.
Just speaking, I've never seen more people pack the auditorium than I did on Veterans Day. Every penny was well spent, and I'm glad to see, we can put back into her fund for Memorial Day, because, like I said, I've never seen that many people come out for that program that they had, so it was worth every penny, and this makes up for it, so I'm glad that she asked for it.
This is one of the few appropriations that we have every year that is actually a good sign, good news, because more people are becoming aware of the benefits. The veterans are becoming aware of the benefits that they have obviously deserved, and they're signing up. and that's a credit to Michelle and her staff. And also, for the public's benefit, any amount of money that the city of Fitchburg, through the Veterans Office, pays out in benefits, the state reimburses us 75%. So, it's a well-deserved cost on the city's part to the veterans who've given their lives to the protection of our freedoms. And this $25,000 is probably the smallest amount I've seen in years since I've been on the council, because typically this has been one of the accounts that mayors in the past have knowingly underfunded significantly. And I think there was a big increase in the last budget. But with new beneficiaries, it keeps growing, but that's a good thing. And we get most of that money back. So it's a good story.
Motion to approve 9117.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve 9117. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.
She wasn't there.